Hey there, and welcome back to Discover Top 5, your go-to destination for the most fascinating, jaw-dropping, and mind-blowing facts from around the world. If you're a fan of exploring new ideas, learning about the latest trends, or just love diving deep into the most surprising topics, you're in the right place. Here at Discover Top 5, we bring you a fresh perspective on everything from unusual customs to the most shocking news stories, and from curious discoveries to hidden gems that might just blow your mind. Every week, we dive into a new topic to uncover the best, the worst, and the downright unexpected. And trust me, today's countdown is one that you won't want to miss. Now, you've probably noticed that things are changing rapidly across the globe, and when it comes to immigration, some countries are taking drastic actions that have the world talking. What's causing these shifts, and why are some nations suddenly tightening their borders? Well, stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to break down the top 10 countries making headlines for their surprising immigration moves in 2025. From major deportation plans to sudden policy overhauls, we'll explore the factors behind these bold decisions, from political to economic reasons, and even the unexpected social factors at play. Each of these countries has made huge waves in the immigration world, and you'll want to know why. Trust me, by the time we reach the number 1 spot, you'll be left thinking, I never saw that coming. So, whether you're a world traveler, a political enthusiast, or just someone curious about the latest global developments, grab your seat and get ready for a wild ride through the top 10 countries making waves with their immigration policies in 2025. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of our amazing future lists, because here at Discover Top 5, we're always diving deep into the most interesting and unexpected stories you won't hear anywhere else.
Pakistan, historically a country that has hosted millions of Afghan refugees, has taken a radical turn in its immigration approach. As of October 2024, over 1.5 million Afghan refugees, plus another 1.5 million Afghans with various legal statuses, have made Pakistan their home. However, in a move that has raised eyebrows globally, the Pakistani government has ramped up its deportation efforts. At the heart of this decision lies growing concerns over security, especially with the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan. Pakistan's government has made it clear that it plans to deport over 800,000 Afghan citizen cardholders and more than 1.3 million proof of registration cardholders. This action has drawn fierce criticism from international human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, which has condemned the deportations for violating international law, particularly the non-refoulement principle. Pakistan's economic landscape plays a role in this development. The country faces high unemployment, slow economic growth, and an over-reliance on its textile industry. All of these factors contribute to its decision to limit the number of refugees it accepts. In fact, over 450,000 Pakistanis themselves sought better opportunities abroad in 2024, heading to places like Saudi Arabia, India, the UK, and the United States. With the political and economic pressures at home, along with the increasing number of refugees arriving from neighboring regions like Afghanistan and India, Pakistan's immigration policies are becoming more restrictive and less welcoming. The growing tensions with neighboring countries are shaping this new direction, and the international community is left grappling with the humanitarian consequences. China has been a focal point for migration, particularly to the United States. In fiscal year 2024, the number of Chinese nationals arriving without authorization at the U.S.-Mexico border surged dramatically from just 2,200 encounters in 2022 to 38,200 in 2024. What's behind the spike? A mix of social, economic, and political factors. The most immediate drivers are China's economic challenges. The country has struggled with the aftermath of strict COVID-19 policies and political repression, creating economic stagnation. Many Chinese citizens are seeking better opportunities abroad, but the long waits for green cards and the harsh realities of life at home push them to take drastic steps, often facilitated by human traffickers or snakeheads. Meanwhile, the United States has significantly increased deportations, with a focus on Chinese nationals. Both the Trump and Biden administrations have expanded removal processes, emphasizing faster deportations and more streamlined cooperation with Chinese authorities. This collaboration aims to manage immigration, but at the cost of due process concerns.
From China's perspective, the government has become more open to repatriating citizens who have overstayed their visas or entered illegally. This change reflects broader shifts in China's approach to immigration and population control, particularly as they face their own internal challenges. The situation of Chinese migrants is complex, caught between the economic hardships at home and the strict immigration measures abroad. The international dynamics between the U.S. and China are reshaping migration patterns, with both countries increasingly limiting the flow of migrants, even as economic ties continue to grow. Spain's handling of immigration in 2025 stands as one of the more significant developments in Europe. As one of the main entry points for migrants coming from North Africa and sub-Saharan regions, Spain has been overwhelmed. In 2024 alone, over 63,000 migrants arrived, marking a sharp increase. The Canary Islands were especially hard hit, with 43,000 new arrivals in a year. This influx has strained local resources and created a humanitarian crisis. The Spanish government has attempted to redistribute some of the migrants across the country, but there's growing resistance from regions like the Balearic Islands, which have refused to participate in these schemes. The challenge for Spain lies in both its geographical proximity to North Africa and its reputation as a welcoming country. Migrants are drawn by the allure of a better life, but the journey is perilous, with many losing their lives trying to reach Spain's shores. The country is now grappling with how to handle these arrivals, which puts a strain not just on resources but on the political stability within Spain itself. The government has struggled to adequately integrate these migrants, often criticizing their inability to fit into Spain's labor market, exacerbated by high unemployment and uncertain residency rules. Once seen as a hub for expats, Spain is now seen by many as a country struggling to balance the pressures of its own population with the overwhelming demand for asylum.
The United Kingdom has long been a favored destination for immigrants, but in 2025, the landscape has dramatically changed. A key factor is the aftermath of Brexit, which significantly altered the country's immigration system. With the UK leaving the European Union, the new rules make it harder for immigrants, especially from Europe, to settle in the UK. In response to these changes, the UK government has focused on reducing net migration, tightening its borders, and prioritizing skilled workers. The new regulations, which place strict criteria on immigrants entering the country, have left many feeling unwanted. The complexities of the immigration system have added another layer of difficulty, particularly for migrants trying to secure legal status. These changes have had a ripple effect on the UK's labor market, especially in industries like healthcare and agriculture, which rely heavily on immigrant labor. With fewer workers available, the UK now faces labor shortages, a situation that could have long-term consequences for its economy. Despite these pressures, the government remains firm in its stance, arguing that the measures are necessary to protect national interests and safeguard the country's future prosperity. However, the long-term impact on the UK's reputation as a nation of immigrants remains to be seen. Italy has faced increasing pressure regarding immigration, particularly in 2025. The country has seen a high number of asylum seekers and irregular migrants, many of whom are trapped by the Dublin regulation, which requires asylum seekers to remain in the first EU country they enter. Italy, struggling with its own internal issues, has responded with tighter policies, such as the Crow Decree of 2023, which limits special protection permits and reduces services at reception centers. Despite this, Italy's agricultural sector is heavily dependent on migrant labor, which has led to a paradox. While the country's policies are becoming more restrictive, migrant workers remain essential for the economy. This has led to significant exploitation of these workers, with many facing poor working conditions and a lack of proper documentation. The country's immigration system has become increasingly rigid in recent years, making it harder for migrants to find legal employment and resident status. While there are efforts to integrate migrant workers into the Italian economy, the bureaucratic hurdles and exploitative practices make it a tough environment for newcomers. France, often celebrated as the land of freedom, equality, and brotherhood, is now taking a notably hard line on immigration. The French government has announced a new set of policies that have significantly altered the landscape for immigrants in 2025. Central to these changes is a new immigration law, which has been met with mixed reactions both domestically and abroad. One of the most controversial elements of this law is the extension of detention periods for undocumented migrants, giving the state more time to assess their cases. For many, this feels like an escalation of France's already tough stance on irregular migration. This move comes in the wake of rising far-right rhetoric and growing concerns about national security, with increasing populism on the rise in the country, many politicians argue that stricter immigration laws are necessary to preserve France's cultural identity and protect its citizens from external threats. In 2024, the country ramped up deportations by nearly 27%, with tens of thousands of undocumented migrants being forcibly removed, many of them from African and Middle Eastern countries. However, this crackdown has faced significant backlash from human rights organizations. Critics argue that these policies are a direct infringement on the rights of migrants and could lead to discrimination based on nationality, religion, or ethnic origin. Another significant barrier is the French language requirement that is now being enforced, with new rules set to roll out by 2026. This rule mandates that migrants applying for permanent residency must demonstrate proficiency in French, at least at an A2 level, which has raised concerns about accessibility for non-French speakers, particularly for those who arrive with limited educational backgrounds. These changes are shaping a much more difficult path for migrants and refugees, who already struggle with integration and access to services like housing and healthcare. The French government insists that these measures are necessary to manage immigration effectively and ensure that those who enter the country can contribute to French society. But the debate continues, as critics question the morality and effectiveness of such stringent policies. Russia, a nation with a long history of migration and a diverse population, has taken drastic steps in 2025 to crack down on illegal immigration. The government has passed new laws that make it easier for authorities to deport migrants, especially those from Central Asia. This policy change has sparked significant controversy, as many activists warned that it could lead to the indiscriminate targeting of migrant workers and asylum seekers. Russia has long relied on migrant labor from former Soviet republics, particularly in construction, agriculture, and service industries. However, the country's labor needs are now facing a paradox. On the one hand, Russia is dealing with a labor shortage, exacerbated by the ongoing war in Ukraine, which has led many skilled workers to leave. On the other hand, the government is aggressively cracking down on migrant workers, who form a significant part of the low-skilled workforce. This has created a situation where the demand for labor is high, but legal avenues for immigration are severely restricted. The reasons behind this shift are complex and multifaceted. The rise of nationalist sentiments within the country, along with the increasing political tension in the region, has led the Kremlin to take a hardline approach to immigration. This has been further fueled by high-profile incidents, such as a terrorist attack allegedly carried out by Tajik nationals in Moscow. The government's response to this has been swift, prioritizing national security concerns over economic stability. For many migrants, the situation in Russia is precarious. A simple infraction, such as a petty crime, could lead to deportation, leaving migrants in a constant state of fear. Activists argue that these policies not only violate basic human rights but also undermine the country's economic interests by driving away workers who are essential to the economy. Saudi Arabia, known for its vast oil wealth and stringent immigration laws, is making headlines in 2025 for its aggressive stance on migrants, particularly those from Yemen. The kingdom has faced growing criticism for forcibly deporting tens of thousands of Yemeni nationals back to their home country, which is still embroiled in war and economic devastation. For many Yemenis, the decision to leave Saudi Arabia and return to such a volatile environment is a devastating blow. The situation is compounded by Saudi Arabia's strict immigration policies, which make it incredibly difficult for migrants to work legally. The majority of those impacted are Ethiopian nationals who have found themselves stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare, unable to secure the necessary documentation to stay in the country. Saudi Arabia, not being a signatory of the 1951 Refugee Convention, does not have formal obligations to accept or protect refugees, leaving many in limbo. The kingdom's approach to immigration is motivated by several factors, including national security concerns, limited job opportunities, and internal pressure to curb the number of undocumented migrants. The lack of clear pathways to legal residency has left many immigrants, particularly from the Horn of Africa, vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. This has sparked protests from international organizations and human rights groups who argue that the deportations are not just a violation of migrant rights, but also failed to consider the dire conditions in the countries they are being sent back to. Germany, historically known for being one of Europe's most welcoming countries for immigrants, has shifted its policies in 2025, leading to significant changes in its immigration landscape. One of the key drivers of this shift is the country's new asylum law, which aims to cut welfare benefits for asylum seekers by up to 19%. This has raised concerns that the German government is trying to discourage asylum seekers from staying in the country, particularly those from conflict zones or impoverished regions. The German economy remains one of the strongest in Europe, but with high demand for skilled workers and an increasingly strained social welfare system, the government has made it clear that only those with specific skills are welcome. Asylum seekers, many of whom come with limited work experience or education, are finding it increasingly difficult to meet the criteria for long-term residence in the country. This has led to rising deportation rates, with Germany deporting over 18,000 people in 2020 for alone, a 20% increase from the previous year. This shift in policy has led to a growing sense of insecurity among immigrant communities, especially in industries that heavily rely on foreign labor, such as healthcare and agriculture. As these sectors face labor shortages, Germany's stance on immigration appears to be creating a paradox. The country needs migrants to fill jobs but has created barriers that prevent many from staying. Furthermore, the political climate, with far-right parties like the Alternative for Germany pushing for even stricter immigration laws, has fueled a climate of hostility toward immigrants, making it more difficult for them to integrate into German society. The United States, long considered the land of opportunity, is taking a more hardline approach to immigration in 2025, focusing on reducing net migration and cracking down on illegal immigration. The country has seen a surge in international students over the past few years, but now many are heading back home after completing their studies, contributing to a decline in net migration. This, in part, is due to tightening visa restrictions and an increase in the salary threshold for foreign workers, which has made it more difficult for skilled workers to qualify for work visas. In addition to these restrictions, the U.S. has ramped up its efforts to combat illegal immigration through various means, including counterterrorism-style operations to dismantle smuggling networks and disrupt small boat crossings. The government has also expanded its detention capacity, working with other countries to negotiate returns agreements and facilitate deportations. This aggressive approach has led to a record number of deportations, with the U.S. government aiming to achieve its highest deportation rate since 2018.
While these measures are presented as necessary for maintaining control over the country's borders, they have sparked criticism from immigrant advocacy groups who argue that they are excessively punitive and undermine the rights of migrants. The focus on deportation and the increasing difficulty of obtaining visas for both workers and students have created a climate of uncertainty for many foreign nationals in the U.S. Despite these challenges, the government remains committed to its policies, arguing that reducing illegal immigration is crucial for national security and economic stability. Hey there, and welcome back to Discover Top 5, your go-to destination for the most fascinating, jaw-dropping, and mind-blowing facts from around the world. If you're a fan of exploring new ideas, learning about the latest trends, or just love diving deep into the most surprising topics, you're in the right place. Here at Discover Top 5, we bring you a fresh perspective on everything from unusual customs to the most shocking news stories, and from curious discoveries to hidden gems that might just blow your mind. Every week, we dive into a new topic to uncover the best, the worst, and the downright unexpected. And trust me, today's countdown is one that you won't want to miss. Now, you've probably noticed that things are changing rapidly across the globe, and when it comes to immigration, some countries are taking drastic actions that have the world talking. What's causing these shifts, and why are some nations suddenly tightening their borders? Well, stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to break down the top 10 countries making headlines for their surprising immigration moves in 2025. From major deportation plans to sudden policy overhauls, we'll explore the factors behind these bold decisions, from political to economic reasons, and even the unexpected social factors at play. Each of these countries has made huge waves in the immigration world, and you'll want to know why. Trust me, by the time we reach the number 1 spot, you'll be left thinking, I never saw that coming.